questions about how to tape, and I apologize for the confusion. That wasn't my intent. And I actually used a masking tape, which is cream color, where I normally use green tape, but the green tape was thicker, a thicker border, and I didn't want that thick border. So for the one canvas, we'll just tape the outside edges. For the second canvas, that seemed to be a bit of an invisible line, I drew lines during the Tuesday class, but rather, I don't want you to draw the lines. I wanted you to tape 3 inches.
Oh.
And 3 inches and 3 inches. So your outside border will be taped, and then we're going to have 3 sections so that when we're done painting, when we take the tape off, we'll have these nice clean white lines. It's 9 inches by 6 inches, and these are 3 inches, 3 inches, and 3 inches.
So you still want us with the green tape to tape the edges and then 2 down the center, down the
edge, yes, and
Okay.
then the 2 only because the green tape that I have is quite wide. If I was to tape that, it would take up too much of the picture. So I actually cut my green tape in half to show you. So you can go ahead and you can tape if you haven't already, but we are not going to do this one first. So there will be time if you need to come back and tape that after. We're going to work on the big plain canvas first. So this is our intended outcome, but this will not be, neither picture will be completed today. What we'll do is the backgrounds, let them dry for the week, and then come back next Thursday, and then we'll do the details. So this is a 2-step process. And because it's a 2-step process, I thought at least we could do 2 backgrounds in one sitting. And everyone's will look different. So this is a watercolor technique that we let the watercolor do whatever it wants to do, which is really fun with watercolor, to just let it flow where it wants to go. We're going to let it control us today instead of us controlling it. Tuesday class is a simpler project in most cases, although we did do one a couple of weeks ago that was quite technical. The clock was a lot of drawing for people. But Tuesday is more of a beginner class. This is why I called this class Step 2, because it's just that little bit of a step up. Once we start into the projects, this is a 2-week project. And then when we go to 3 weeks from now, the next project will be negative painting, and that will also be a 2-week project. So it's a little more technical. It's important for you to have your backgrounds done for next week. We're going to do the backgrounds together today. And I am going to, I have my canvas on an easel right now for you to see it, but I am going to lay it flat, and I'll move my camera so you can actually see what I'm doing, because we're going to be painting and then we want the watercolor to move. We'll need to manipulate it, but if I have the paint on an easel, it's all just going to run down, and that's not the effect that I want. So with that, we're at the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead. We're going to start with our plain canvas, which is the square, or sorry, rectangular one that is just taped around the outside edges. And as I said, I'm going to lay mine flat. So I have my canvas flat on my board. I'll move my easels back a little bit. And I did have a suggestion for paper towel. I took a roll of paper towel and a pair of scissors and just set it on my coffee table. I don't know if you have that option or not, but I take a square of paper towel and I cut it in 4. So I have lots of paper towel, little pieces. And then when I'm sitting by the television watching, it's sort of mindless work. I can just cut them and then I'm ready for the next class. So just a hint, if it's paper towel that you're using, and because I don't use a whole sheet, I just use a few pieces at a time, but nice to have them ready. And so we'll need our 2 waters ready. So I just have 2 cups of water. One I'm going to keep clear, and the other will be for cleaning my brushes. I've got my salt ready. There's only a handful, not even a handful. I've just got a little bit in a baggie. I had actually Himalayan salt, which was really big, and I banged it with a kitchen tool to just make it a little bit smaller. So if some people asked about what kind of salt that you would need, if you have just regular table salt, we'll just see how that works out as well. We just want to have a few lines or spaces in your canvas that the salt actually moves the paint away and leaves little white spots. So if I give you a sample, this is a picture done with salt, and you can see how the salt has moved the paint right out of the picture and left little clear spots.
Mm.
So it's actually,
it's not in the picture for, yes, thank you.
there you go. So it's just
on the left is the salt.
The salt is here
Yes.
on this side. Yes, and so it's just almost like it's pitted the picture. So it doesn't harm the canvas, but it just moves the paint away. So that's the effect that we want.
Great.
So we'll start with our canvas and clear water, just clear water. And I've got a number 6 round brush. You can use a bigger brush if you like. And we're just going to get our whole canvas wet. So we're not making it sopping wet. We don't want too many puddles really, but we want enough water on our canvas that when we put paint on, it starts to move. So we're just painting, and you can lift up your canvas and have a look and just see if you've missed any spots. If you've missed any spots, you'll see a dry spot, a dry place. So just touch that up with water. And it's kind of a shiny surface. So
Cathy,
while you're doing that,
someone's asking, is that the big canvas or the split one?
this is the full one, no splits. This is the full canvas.
Do we do it horizontal or vertical?
It doesn't really matter as long as the whole thing is wet. You can go sideways, side to side. You can do corner to corner. You can do front back, whichever, well, not front back, but on the front. So I'd just like to remind everyone, this is not about perfection. This is just progress. We're just learning something new. We're trying a different technique. And so we'll just take a deep breath in and deep breath out. Just let that go and drop your shoulders down, and another deep breath in and out. And one more time, deep breath in and breathe out. And relax your grip on your brush. We don't need a death grip. We just want to have enough that we're not dropping the brush. And with our canvas, with the water on, we're going to start. Now, if anybody's canvas has dried, have another look again and just see if there are any dry spots. We just want it to be shiny. So go ahead and put on another coat if you need. And if you have any paint that's gone beyond the tape border, just use your paper towel on the outside and just gently sop that up. So we don't want puddles, but we do want a nice glossy looking coat. And this can be as light or as dark as whatever you choose it to be. If we look at the picture, it's fairly light. It's got some yellows, it's got some greens, it's got a little bit of purple, it's got some red, it's got some blue. So I'm going to start with, let's see, I'm going to start with a green, like a light green. And I'm just getting water in my paint and getting it flowing. And now I'm just going to touch here and there on my canvas. You can see I'm just doing little polka dots. And I might do a stripe here and there. Just a few stripes. It's nothing too outlandish, just some polka dots and stripes. And if you look closely, you can see that just by me holding it sideways, that paint is starting to run. And
Do you want us to do that as well?
yes, I want
Let
you
it
to
run?
go. You can. Yes, I want you to move let your paint move.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go on to my picture and I'm going to put on some dots of pink. So you can see when I put a dot on there, it's really spreading. So I've got lots of energy and lots of motion, and I'm moving that around so that my paint just keeps moving in different directions. And so this is not to have a whole lot of thought behind it. It's just to put the color on with the water and watch it move. And now I'm going to add just splashes of blue throughout, just little dots of blue. So I'm going to turn my canvas different ways and let that color move. And I'd like to have a little bit more movement to my paint. And so I'm just taking water drops, clear water, and just almost like an eyedropper effect. Just with my finger, I'm just dropping water. And now when I hold my canvas, it will move even more. So you can see it's starting to run a little bit. Now I've got some little white spaces in there that I want to cover up. So where I'm seeing little white spaces, I'm going to add yellow. And we're turning our canvas in different ways to let the water flow. If your water is not flowing, the paint and the water is not flowing on your canvas, dip into your clear water with your brush and with an eyedropper style, just flick on the end of your brush and put clear water onto your picture. And then you'll see that you'll have some splatters and it will start to move. And if you have any water, like paint drops coming down the side, you can certainly wipe that up. Just touch that off so you're not getting that all over your surface. But we're just looking for a nice soft flow to the paint. And everyone's going to look different. So if you're doing this with a friend or someone else beside you, don't expect yours to look the same as theirs. And wherever I feel that I just want to add a little bit more color, I can go ahead and do that. If I want more blue in one spot or more purple in another spot, So I'm just making a purple out of red and blue. And I'm just going to put a few slashes and dots of purple just in different spots on my picture, just because I like purple. And so you can see that those colors are all starting to blend together. So this soft effect of the paint and the water flowing is very difficult to get without just allowing the paint to do what it's going to do. So take a deep breath, just relax. It's just a piece of paper. This is just practice. It's something new. If at the end of today, after we put the salt on and you're really not happy with your result, then you'll at least have the technique that you can go and you can try it again and maybe come back to class on next Thursday with 2 of them. And you can decide which one you. But I like that soft effect at the top of my picture right now. I think that's quite nice. But you know, the interesting thing is you can decide which way is the top of your picture. It could be this way. So that paint will still continue to move as long as your paper is even slightly damp. And you can turn it around from one side to another. So this is only the background for our picture that we'll complete next week, because we will be putting salt on this. We will want this to dry throughout the week with the salt on it, and then come back and take the salt off.
Cathy, when it's drying, I'm using that spray thing to spray on more water. Should I be doing that or not?
What I used was just my brush with clear water, and I just used like an eyedropper type effect and let water drop on, so that when I turned my picture, my artwork, it would blend. So if you want to use a sprayer, that's fine, but I actually use droplets of water, fair sized, that would give me a really nice flow.
Cathy, I shouldn't leave any negative white space in. It should be all filled in.
Yeah, if you have white spaces, put a little bit of yellow in there for brightness. All right, now if you've got your canvas ready, you've got your colors on, it's not completely dry yet. What we want to do is go back on and put some water droplets on one corner, from the top corner down to the bottom corner, or sorry, down to the middle of the bottom. So I'm going to go, I'm just drawing a line on mine so you can see. So we're going to go in all of this section. We want to do water droplets. So again, on your canvas, that's the left corner, from the top corner to the middle of the bottom. And I'm just using clear water, and I'm just going to put on water droplets, just clear water. So it's going to look like cauliflower droplets a little bit on my art. So it looks a little bit like cauliflower. If you can see that, I'm holding that up. And then I'm going to come in with red. So I'm using my red paint. And on top of those cauliflower droplets, I'm going to do red, almost like an eyedropper again, just red sprinkles of paint. So hold it up just for a second, but I don't want this to run. So I'm just going to hold it for a second, and then I'm going to put it down. So I don't want this to run and bleed into any other parts of the picture. I only want it to stay on that corner. If some of the little red dots have gone into other parts of my picture, that's okay. I'm actually going to do a few extra little dots just here and there on my picture. So I have a few dots just out a little bit because these are going to be dandelions blowing. That's what that is, dandelions blowing. So it's okay if it goes a little bit beyond.
Kathy, you have a lot of the red. Should we put that much or just a
Yes, I
little
put a
bit?
lot of red. I put quite a bright red, yes, because we're going to put the salt on top of that now. That will be
Okay.
our next step.
Okay.
Yep, so lots of red, nice bright red if you've got it, or a pinkish color. Something nice and bright and fun.
Kathy, should we hold up our picture so that it flows like yours, or should we leave it as droplets?
Leave it as droplets. It should start to spread. If it's not spreading a little bit, then take your clear water and just do water drops on top of that red. Just do a
Thank you.
few water drops. And then we're going to add our salt. And so I'm just going to take the salt and I'm going to drop it on top of the red color, wherever I have red. And I'm just going to let it sit on there. And it should start to move the paint away wherever the salt hits. So I have the salt sitting on top of my red. It looks a little bit messy right now, but not to worry. It will get better. Lots of times in a piece of artwork, we look at it and we think, really, is this going to be what I want it to be? And many artists feel the same way. It takes time. So we're only on stage one. We'll work more on this next Thursday. So as I said, I have Himalayan salt. I also have sea salt. You could have table salt. You could use a grinder if you have, and just put a little bit of salt on this way. But from the time that we've started and we've got the salt on, we have a maximum of 5 minutes, and then the paint will be too dry for the salt to do anything at all. All right, so we're going to set this one aside. We are finished this for today. We're not going to do any more on this particular picture. So we're setting that aside and we'll come back to that one next Thursday. And now we're going to move to the 3 split canvas. So it has a border around the outside. It has a split 3 inches, 3 inches, and 3 inches. This is the effect that we'll end up with. So when we take off the tape in the middle, then we will see the white lines. We won't be painting the tree today. We're only doing the backgrounds. So again, but we're going to do each of the 3 separately. So we're going to paint the first one blue, the middle one yellow, and the far one red. We're going to do them all individually because as we do one, we're going to put salt on, then we'll move to the second one and we'll put paint and then put salt on, and the third one we'll paint and then put salt on. So we'll start with the very first one is Everyone ready to move ahead? I don't want to rush people if you're still on your first picture. Just give me a hands up if you're ready.
What length is the division of those?
9 inches by 6.
Do we not have to remove the salt from the first painting in 5
Not
minutes?
today. Not today. No, no, we had 5 minutes to get the salt on before the water
On.
dried.
Okay.
But we're going to leave it until it completely dries, and we'll take it off next week. And the same for this second picture. We're going to put the salt on, we're going to leave it on because we want it to dry. And then when we take it off, we'll see it's left little white pitted marks. So we want those little lines, those series of lines that you can only get. It's very, very difficult to make so many lines when you're just trying to paint them. So we're going to start with blue, but first we're just going to get the first box completely wet with clear water. So again, not puddles, but we do want it to be shiny. And if you find you've got too much paint that it's coming around the outside of your tape, just dry that off. And you can hold that up and you can look and see, are there any spaces that you've missed? And if you've missed any spaces, then now's a good time for you to go ahead and pick that up.
Kathy,
Yes.
the box on the right, is that going to be red, did you say?
Well,
I'm the lefty, so I'm going to move the other way, if that's okay with you.
At this point, it doesn't matter. You can do the outside edge. They're going to be blue on one side and red on the other, and it's going to be yellow in the middle. So it doesn't matter right or left.
Okay.
Because if I did blue on the side that I'm working on and I turn it the other way, it's going to be blue on the other side. So
Good
this
thinking.
is an
Sorry.
ambidextrous project. So again, just have a look and give it a little extra water if you need. Not puddles, but nice and shiny. And we'll go ahead and we'll do a blue. Now I'm going to use an ultramarine blue. I think I have ultramarine blue here. So I'm going to do ultramarine blue. And again, I'm going to drop that color in. So I'm just putting that in. I'm not so much painting as I'm letting it just flow. Just sort of dotting it in and around. But I do want to have a darker edge. So I'm going to take a little bit of black where I have Payne's gray. And I'm just on the outside edge. I'm just going to put a little bit darker because I want that to look a little bit spookier or darker on the outside. So I'm just touching that on. I'm going to add a little bit more blue, just a little bit.
Kathy, that's your right side you're doing first, right?
I could switch it this way and it's left side. Either
Okay,
way.
doesn't matter. Okay.
Nope, it doesn't matter. Blue is on one side, red will be on the other side, and yellow in the middle. So it can be left or right. So I'm just soaking up excess water from the outside, and now I'm going to let that paint flow. So I'm just gonna, it just looks like it's gone a little bit light, so I'm gonna add a little bit more because I want it to have a definite blue to it. I don't want it to look so much like a washed out blue. I want it to look definitely a nice blue. And it looks like my Payne's gray has really faded away. So I'm going to add some more of that for the outside edge. So you can see in the picture, we've got this nice dark outside. So we want that far side to be dark. So that doesn't matter if it's right or left, because we're going to do that dark side on the red as well. So again, I'm just letting those colors flow together. Just again, going back again with that dark because it really seems to be fading away. Now we've got that blue on there, and now we want to go ahead and we want to put some salt on top of that. So we're just setting salt on there. And it depends what kind of salt you've got. It could be sea salt, could be table salt, could be, I've got Himalayan pink salt. I'm just going to use my grinder, put a little bit of salt. It's a little bit coarse, this salt. So we don't want big puddles on our picture because that's just going to pool and that's where the salt's going to go. There we go. So a good amount of salt, and we're going to leave that, just let that dry, or just leave it. We're not going to actually finish the picture today, as I said. We're just doing the backgrounds. So while you're doing that, I'll read to you from my May You Know Joy Meditations for Everyday Living. And the card I pulled out today is Space, which is not moon or Mars, but just space in general. So may you know space. Space is generous and it expands in the absence of tension. So drop your shoulders. Embrace your own space and create a place that you're happy to be in. There is so much freedom there. Pause, breathe, and know that you are accepting the vastness of the universe. It is in you and all around you. So that's space for today. So we'll move next to the center one. And with just clear water, we're going to get the center one wet. Just clear water. A little bit shiny, not too many puddles. And we're on to the second half of our class already, so I'm glad I picked two projects that we could do within the time frame. So just have a look and see if it's shiny, if you need to add a little bit more water, if there's any blank spaces where you can see that the water hasn't got to already. So just gently hold it up and have a look. And then we're going to add, you can either add yellow or ochre. It's up to you. I'm going to put ochre on mine. So I'm just tapping the color on and around. Just let that color flow and go where it's going to go. And with this ochre color into the blue, I'm just going to touch the edge of the blue, almost a half moon, but not just touching the edge of the blue, that it looks like the yellow is expanding into the blue. So I've just touched the yellow into the blue, just ever so slightly.
Will you also touch the yellow into the red since I did my
Yes.
red first? Yes.
Yes, we will touch the yellow into the red, but we're doing one at a time. So we'll come back to that one. So yes, if you've done your red first, then definitely touch the yellow into it. So my yellow seemed to dry a little bit, so I'm just adding a little bit of water, just like a water droplet with my brush. And then I'm going to go back on with a puddly ochre, and I'm just going to add a little bit more on, just sort of a sprinkly fashion. And then I'm coming on with my salt. So back onto this one also. I'm adding my salt. And it doesn't have to be perfectly, even if you have more salt in one spot than another, which I do. I have a whole whack in the middle there. Just going to spread it, but it should be fine. This is the first one that we did, and see, I've got some nice white spaces on there as well. So it's starting to dry. It's not dry yet. I can still see it shiny, but it's starting to separate the paint from the canvas. That's what the salt does. And so if you're holding your brush really tight, just relax that grip. Just let the paint move. Take a deep breath. And if you're ready, we'll move on to the third one. And again, we're just going to get that wet. So shiny, but not too wet, not puddles. Just lift your canvas up to the light and see if you've missed any spots. If you've missed any spots, nice to touch those up. If you have an excess of water or pooling or puddling, you can use your paper towel and just set it on the edge of your tape, and it should pick up any excess water. And here we'll pick our red. So I'm going to pick up my red color. Or it could be, I've got sort of a pinky color, and so I'm just dotting my color onto the canvas. So it's quite a bright pinky red. I want it to be just a little bit more. I've missed some edges. And I want the yellow to come into that. So yellow stays yellow. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but on my picture on my yellow, I've got a bit of a puddle, and I don't want so much of a puddle. So I'm just gently tapping or just touching where it's too much yellow, but not to lift the paint completely. Just absorb some of that excess. Go ahead, and we're going to put salt in there again. So we'll put some salt on that. So when you want to do this while the paint's still wet.
Are we putting black on the edge of the red?
We do, actually, yes, you're right. We want to darken that up. Thank you for that reminder. So we want that outside edge dark. I'm going to go back onto my blue and just darken that. I'm not sure why my black or Payne's gray is going so faded on my blue, but I'm going to go back into that outside edge and just touch up a little bit more. And so just relax your shoulders if you're hunched up. And because we're just letting paint flow wherever it wants to go, we kind of have to let go of the expectations of what we're going to get. So once we do the final work with it, I think you'll be happy with it. At this point, if you're wondering what's going on with your picture, don't panic. It's just part of the process with the salt. We need to let this completely dry. Yes, so this is what we've done so far, and this is what we're going to end up with. So during the week, as your picture dries, well, it may be dry by the end of today. If you decide you want to take the salt off and see what it looks like with the salt removed, then when you're rubbing on your picture, if you're using the palms of your hands, you're going to end up with no fingerprints. It really, the rubbing on the salt actually really softens your fingers. But if you're rubbing the blue, wash your hands before you go to the yellow, and then wash your hands again before you go to your pink or your red. The color will be absorbed into the salt and will come onto your hands. Now, there's another way of doing it. You could use an eraser, but you want to be very careful with your picture, or you could use a ruler. But again, make sure that you're cleaning your ruler after you take the salt off. Depending on where you're doing it, whether you're doing it over a sink or a counter, you are going to have salt spreading everywhere. So, just I'm sure that you're adults, you can figure out where you want to take the salt off. Or you can just wait until next week and we'll do all of that together. So not a rush, but you do want to wait until the salt dries. If you're trying to take off the salt on your picture and any of the paint is still wet, it will start to spread and you won't have the little holes and lines that really make the picture look quite dynamic. So just give it a good shot and let it dry.
Cathy, I can really understand what you said about put it on within that first 5 minutes. Because I can see the difference between this one and the one I showed you the other day. Because that didn't spread. I can, because it's exactly the same salt, everything is the same, but I can really see the difference. That time makes a huge difference.
The timing, that's right. You don't want it right away, but you want it within a minute, and then no longer than 5 minutes, because otherwise your paint is just too dry and it won't do anything. So good. I'm glad you can see.
How long until the salt it's dry that I could take it off myself?
It might be dry by tomorrow morning. You'll know when you hold your picture up to the light if it's shiny anywhere, except salt has a bit of a shine to it. But if it's shiny, like it looks wet, it's not ready. But at this point, we're done. So just take that and set it aside and be patient and let it do its own magic. And then we'll come back and complete it next week. Bye-bye.